Welcome everyone, Dr. Mandell here. Beautiful day over here in sunny South Florida. Actually, the sun's gone down, but it was hot today. I hope that everyone out there is doing well. We are tuning in live. We are live streaming, and this is going to be a fun program. Why? Because I'm going to give you the invite so you can get on the platform if you have something to say about weight loss. This program is all about fat versus muscle. I'm going to talk about a few important things here. This is a topic where many of you are just not really certain about if you're doing it the right way. Although notifications are going out right now, we will be filling up this chat room. So I hope that you are having a safe day as well as a safe week with you and your family. And what we are going through out there, we will all get through it, I promise you. But this is going to be an interesting topic because of the fact that many of us out there are trying to lose weight. We look at the pandemic and we say, God, we were just so inactive, just being around, sitting around, just eating and feeling good, having those endorphins flowing and kicking up our ghrelin levels, just eating away. That's our comfort. When we're under stress, what do? We like to eat away. Because by eating away, secretes serotonin and dopamine in the brain. Therefore, it gives us the feeling of that euphoric endorphins feeling that we can secrete through our entire body so we can feel good. And obviously, we live to feel good, but obviously, we can't always live on that realm because eating sugar, eating donuts, eating candy, eating sweets, drinking fruit juices, and adding up all these refined carbohydrates is not going to be good for us. And the first thing that I'm going to talk about is fat versus muscle. Are they the same? No. So I did a little shorts video I put out there. Many of you might have seen it. I just recently put it out there. But it's basically if you're exercising, what are you doing? You're breaking down muscles. So the amino acids, the proteins within your body can rebuild those muscles to make it stronger. So the most important thing is we need to understand that what we don't use, we lose. And as we get older, we start losing lean body weight being muscle. So if we start losing muscle, the first thing that people think is, well, God, I feel guilty not exercising because my muscle is going to get converted to fat, whatever muscle I have left. And I'm really going to be in trouble. No. Don't jump so fast. Muscle cannot be converted to fat, as fat cannot be converted to muscle. Never, ever, ever, ever. That's like saying, I'm going to convert an apple to an orange or an orange to a plum or an apple to a banana. They're two separate entities. So they are separate. So the bottom line is that when you do not exercise, and again, you don't have to lift weights. You may be doing some work around the garden. You may be walking around the block. You may be riding a bicycle. You may be swimming, maybe playing a little tennis or racquetball, but you're using your body. You must always continue to use your body because when you stop using your body, the muscles that are not being used start to become weaker. We all know about that. What you don't use, you lose, of course. So when you stop using muscles, they become weaker. What happens is the fat cells start to become a little bigger, all right? Or they start to swell. So in other words, you say, God, I lost all this tonus in my arm and it's all flabby here. The muscle did not get converted to fat. It's just that the muscle is not tonus and sticking out the way it used to. So obviously, if the muscle goes down, you are left with whatever fat is there. But here's the downside. The downside is that our muscles are the burning furnace of our body. In other words, the more lean body weight you have, the higher your metabolic rate is at rest. So if you have muscle, I'm not talking about like huge muscles, but just tone muscles, your metabolic rate is going to increase. Therefore, you're going to burn more calories. But if you have less muscle, the fat is only about 3 calories to sustain that particular fat versus 40 to 50 calories to sustain a pound of muscle. So a pound of fat and a pound of muscle weigh the same, but the metabolic rate sustaining that muscle is so much higher than that fat. So if you're walking around and have more muscle tone, your metabolic rate is higher. What does that mean? That means that you can eat more and still stay thin. But you see, as we get older and as we lose the muscle, if you keep eating the way you always have, you're going to say, wow, I'm just getting older. No. Yes, you're getting older, but no, you're losing muscle. And that's why you're gaining weight. So the weight that you're getting is from the excessive carbohydrates, the majority of it, unless you're eating fat all day long, which I highly doubt, but it's the processed food, it's the carbohydrates, the refined carbohydrates, that's not getting stored as glycogen. So see, the carbohydrates does three things. One, it gets burned off. You take a carb, you run around, you burn it off. Two, it gets stored in the glycogen into the liver or the muscle. Three, it gets converted to fat. And the majority of the time it gets converted to fat. All right, let's go ahead and give you the invite. All right, if you'd like to come up, and if you've been using any of my elixirs, a lot of the things I've been putting out in weight loss, you see has done well for you. Apple cider vinegar has been doing well for you. And you want to say something to the rest of the people, rest of the world, come on up. I'll put you up on the platform. You can talk like me and you can talk together, but we'll keep you real simple, real short, and make sure you have clothes on. So how many of you like coffee? Not many of you like coffee, right? Well, caffeine is a primary ingredient in just about every fat-burning supplement. And the reason why is that coffee acts as a natural central nervous system stimulant. It increases metabolism, and it boosts the breakdown of fatty acids. So I'm not telling you to get drunk on coffee, but if you are a coffee drinker, I will guarantee that you will increase your fat burning. So remember, coffee, believe it or not, is known to prevent cancer in the liver as well as the colon. Coffee has unbelievable antioxidants in it. So am I a coffee drinker? I don't drink coffee. Maybe a little half milk once in a while, but I'm not a coffee drinker. But coffee is good for you as long as it is not getting your blood pressure out of control. Now, I want people to understand that soluble fiber, the fiber that you get in the fruits, the soluble fiber you get in chia seeds, flax seeds, all those good natural fibers, what that does, that grabs onto the extra cholesterol, the extra fat, and takes it out of your body. Remember that extra fat that we eat, primarily those extra sugars, are inflammatory. It's the inflammation that causes destruction in our body, that leads to autoimmune problems. It leads to diabetes, type 2 diabetes, as well as insulin resistance, cardiovascular problems, autoimmune. It affects everything. It affects inflammation. Let's go ahead and head to this pretty young lady here. I see her in the bottom there. Hi, Marie. Is that Marie, right?
Hi, Hi Dr. Mandell. Hi again.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. What would you like to start?
So I am a certified personal trainer, and I want to quickly say, those that are wanting fat loss, the best thing you can focus on is HIIT cardio, the high intensity interval training, and
Correct.
eating in the caloric deficits.
Correct. HIITs, the high interval intensive HIITs training, basically what it is that you want to go ahead, find something you enjoy doing. All right. You don't have to do rigorous stuff like people do in the gym. It just maybe jumping jacks and maybe a little type of exercise, like maybe even getting up from a chair, standing up, getting down, standing up, standing. Anything that you enjoy doing, do it to a point of a couple minutes. And then you're going to take maybe half or a fraction of that time, rest, and go back at it again. You'll do it for a continuation of, if you can, 15, 20, 30 minutes. But what the whole research behind this is that by bumping up your heart rate and dropping it back down and bumping it back up and dropping it back down, they found that this has burned more calories than any other exercise. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That is the key. Exactly what you said. You want your heart rate to be elevated for at least a good 20 to 30 seconds, and then let it rest again for another 20 seconds. Then keep doing it, maybe 4 to 5 sets. That's excellent.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. It's always beautiful to see you.
You too, Dr. Mandell. Thank you.
All right. Take care. That was a magic sound there. It must have been from the innate power above. Hello there. This is Keto. How are you? What? Just unmute yourself.
There we go. Sorry about that.
Okay. Hello there. Nice to see you there, Jess.
Good to see you too. So I had a question. You were talking about the apple cider vinegar. Now, I have done the apple cider vinegar now for about 8 years in the morning, and I was looking into some other alternatives, and there's a pH Lush. Have you ever heard of that?
Not familiar with that.
It is it's an alkalining powder, and it has I'm looking at my other screen so I can tell you exactly what it is, but it's an alkalizing cleanser. And it's got slippery elm, ginger root, and marshmallow root, and yellow dock in it. And I'm wondering, since apple cider vinegar and this pH Plus are both alkalining, it probably wouldn't be good to take around.
I wouldn't mix it. The only thing I'd put with apple cider vinegar is your simple lemon. I think that once you start alkalizing apple cider vinegar, you may be taking the effect. It's kind of like putting baking soda. I'm being sarcastic. Baking soda and apple cider vinegar, I think you're not going to get the same effect. I think, and because the reason why I can say only that is because hasn't been a ton of research on a lot of this nutritional stuff, but there's been a lot on apple cider vinegar. We know what it does for type 2 diabetes or insulin resistance by taking it right before a meal, how it allows insulin to work less and allow sugar to become more sustained, glucose to get into the cells easier. It's, from a satiety point of view, we know what apple cider vinegar could do, but I really don't know much about it. But this is something you may want to explore, take it to a different level. The problem is that when something hasn't been out there long enough, we don't have enough people or testimonials to really tell us about, because people like you are the ones that really make our program, because there are so many people doing new things that we don't do at this end of it that can really help others. And that's why we ask you to come out. But I really don't know about that, and I don't want to guess.
Okay. Yeah, no, I didn't know either. And I was, exploring that and trying to research it, but I wanted to see if you had any.
Yeah. Sometimes, when we do things, we like to keep things very simple. I know a lot of people will put an elixir out. Some people say, well, I just had, I had cayenne, I had a little turmeric, I had a little bit of bilberry, or they start putting all these different herbs in there. I mean, you can add anything. But more doesn't necessarily mean better. It's real. Our bodies, made up of all chemicals, and sometimes less is more. Particularly the fact that we don't know what works if we put too much in. It's just like taking a drug. If we're taking too much drugs, or even nutrition. I mean, if we're taking too many vitamins, we're trying to combat a problem like prostatitis or cystitis or gastritis or whatever it is. And if we're doing too much, we don't really know what works. So. Yeah, so from that point of view, but I would challenge it. I would play with it.
Okay. All right. That's all I wanted to put in today.
Good seeing you. Stay well.
Thanks for having me up. You too.
Anytime. Next thing I want to mention, by the way, if you just tuned in, Dr. Mandell, talking about fat versus muscle. But remember, when we look at muscle is the furnace. Look at muscle as the logs, and the logs are always burning. And if those logs are always burning, even when we put our junk food in our body, it's increasing that metabolic rate. It's increasing thermogenesis. It's increasing the heat so our body can burn things quicker. The next thing I want to mention is fats. Now, most of you who are overweight don't like eating too many fats. Now, you don't want to eat trans fats, because trans fats are your margarines, and that kind of stuff is linked to inflammation. Inflammation is linked to heart disease and insulin resistance, abdominal fat, visceral fat, other kinds of problems. So you want to get rid of those trans fats. And again, if you like to drink alcohol, maybe a glass of wine here and there is okay, but I would not really push it. But when it comes down to good fats, like your avocados, your extra virgin coconut oils, even your eggs, your organic eggs, you get the good natural fats. Your olive oils, all those things are really good. So don't be afraid to eat those good fats, because of the fact that fats not only are needed for the cells and cell membranes of our body, but this is a way of satiety. This is what makes us. This is what calms our ghrelin levels. This is what kind of increases our leptin levels. And basically, once you get those hormones out of whack, and if you're not sleeping enough, that will get those hormones out of whack. If you're not sleeping enough, you're going to be craving more of those sweets. It's because the hormonal level, you have no control over it. When you're under stress, what happens? Your cortisol level goes up. What does that mean? That means your adrenaline goes up, and that means your glucose is being broken down from glycogen stores. So what happens is when you have too much stress, we start doing things incorrectly. It throws off our ghrelin levels, and we start craving sweets. We try to combat that stress, but what's happening is that all that extra glucose is playing a toll on the pancreas. The pancreas is secreting insulin. The insulin is all just keep pumping out into the bloodstream. And what happens to extra insulin? Too much insulin means visceral fat, because the only time your body can really store fat is when there's lots of insulin. So what we're trying to say here is stress affects cortisol. Cortisol affects glucose. Glucose affects the pancreas, which affects insulin. Insulin affects visceral fat. It's a whole cycle. So you got to break that cycle. So if you're dieting and you're under stress, you're going to have a hard time losing weight because your cortisol levels are up. Remember, our cortisol comes up high in the morning, low in the night. All right. Yeah. You don't want to eat late before you go to bed. I'm guilty of it. I'm sure we all are from time to time. But if you're pumping up those stressful cortisol levels late at night, and now you got insulin pumping when you're trying to go to bed, that eventually is going to cause too much insulin in your system, and everything has to become balanced. And over time, we become more insulin resistant, okay, because it becomes more inflammatory. So there is a purpose of insulin. Insulin is needed, but we don't want insulin sticking around for long, long periods of time. So when you're snacking, one of the best things to do is more protein. Protein. It takes more energy for your body to burn protein, the metabolic rate to burn protein compared to any macronutrient like carbohydrate or fats. So protein is a great thing to have as snacks throughout the day that will sustain your normal insulin levels, that won't give you that surge, that upward surge, and give you that downward fall. Okay? Very important. But remember, protein and muscle work hand in hand. So if you are working out, make sure you're getting enough protein. You don't want to work out because you need to replenish those amino acids, need to be replenished to make up that protein so things can heal. But it is important that when you work out, you don't want to keep working out on the same muscle. Give it at least 48 hours. Remember, when you work out, you break down a muscle. And those fibrils, all those cells in those muscles that are broken down have to reheal. And if you don't give it time to reheal, it's not going to get stronger. All right. So from that perspective, that is really important. So stress levels, you really need to keep down because of cortisol. You need to cut out those refined, those sugary substances, because that's going to lead to all other kinds of fatty liver. If you're eating too much sugar, the fatty liver is real common, particularly with visceral fat. Cardio exercise that we talked about, HIIT is extremely good. If you don't do HIIT, get on a bike, swim, walk. Walking is extremely important. And don't be afraid to get those real good fats. It is really important. Now, another thing I want to tell you to do, if you like to juice, don't be juicing fruit juice. If you take your apples and your oranges and your grapes and whatever other fruits you're juicing, and only having the juice without the fiber, that's not good. The high fructose corn syrup is really not so much different than just drinking fruit juice without the fiber and the essential elements in it, because the purpose of having fiber is to slow the assimilation of glucose into the cells. And it's really important. Research that I read today, and I've been reading it for a long time, that people who are on the keto diet are so damn against carbs. But on the other hand, eating too many bad fats increases insulin resistance. Okay. Yes, your insulin will go down if you're on a keto diet for short periods of time. But if you're on it for long periods of time, the inflammatory markers, and there's research out there, you can Google it, too much saturated fat, meats and too much, will eventually lead to insulin resistance. It will lead to insulin resistance. And on the other hand, they're knocking lentils, you're knocking beans, legumes. Well, guess what? You Google legumes and you'll see that this helps insulin resistance. This helps diabetes. It's so important you understand about nutrition. I'm not here knocking diets. I'm not telling you what you should or should not eat. But why omit healthy foods that are good for the entire endocrine system? They're good for your hormones. They're good for your fat. They're good for your cholesterol. It's good for your sugars, good for your glucose. It helps insulin resistance. The research is all out there. So I'm not going to go out and knock diets. I'm not here to knock diets. You can continue, but I think that anyone that stays on a diet should not. If you want to try something, go for it. All right. But there becomes a time you just have to eat whole natural foods, healthy foods. And if it has glucose in it or sugars in it or fructose in it, it's okay as long as you're not eating tons and tons of it. But there's so many foods that, in the world today that don't deplete something that could be healthy for your body. And restful sleep. And, I'm guilty of this. I like to edit late at night. I try to sleep late in the morning. I don't go anywhere. Sleep affects your hormones. It affects your muscles. It affects your testosterone levels. It affects your growth hormone. Sleep is important because sleep heals. And if you want to sustain healthy muscles and build healthy muscles, if you're a weightlifter or just a casual exerciser, you must get your sleep. And if you're not, it's going to affect your cortisol levels. It's going to affect your ghrelin, your leptin levels. It's going to affect a lot of different things. Eat your fish. Your omega-3s are extremely healthy for you, good for the cells. Your salmon, herring, sardines, mackerel, anchovies. And if you're a vegetarian, get it somewhere else. Your apple cider vinegar, I'm still a big pusher on this because of the fact the studies are out there. The acetic acid is known to reduce abdominal fat storage. It helps prevent the transfer of fat into the fatty cells. And there's research out there, but it's just not apple cider vinegar. It's doing everything else along with apple cider vinegar. Probiotics, another thing. You need to take those probiotics because the probiotics or getting your natural probiotics for your kefir, your yogurts, your fermented food, because your gut helps your metabolic rate. Your gut helps your body repair and heal. Your gut helps sustain muscle. Your gut helps thermogenesis. Your gut affects your immune system. It affects your cardiovascular system. It affects even insulin resistance. You have to have a good gut because the gut is really important. So if you are eating lots of sugars, been on antibiotics, you need to get on a good probiotic, and you must eat good prebiotics. Prebiotics are those fibers, and the fibers supply the food to the probiotics so the probiotics can stay healthy and vibrant. Okay, so if you're not getting the prebiotics, which is all your fiber or your soluble fiber or prebiotics, and a lot of people who eat certain diets don't get the prebiotics. You have to feed the probiotics if you want to stay healthy. And a lot of people with keto, and one thing I do give keto credit for is intermittent fasting, because intermittent fasting works with a word called autophagy. And autophagy is when the cells can repair each other. So you generally eat within an eight hour window and fast for a 14 or 16-hour window. You could do it daily. You could do it every other day. Some people do it on the weekends, and there are different ways of intermittent fasting. I do like green tea. I like the catechins in there. It's proven that the epigallocatechin gallate, which is your EGCG, appears to boost metabolism. So people out there are trying to always take off that weight, which is a very important thing. And change your lifestyle. Start eating natural whole foods in the whole state and stay away from all that processed stuff. So that is pretty much what I wanted to talk about pertaining to our body, our metabolism, fat versus muscle, because they're two separate entities, and start eating more protein throughout the day. I know I said that, but it really makes a huge difference. Don't be afraid to take a handful of nuts because you're getting good fat, good protein, will keep you satiated. It won't allow you to overeat. And another thing I advise you to do is that while you're eating, try not to drink lots of water or fluids with it because you're going to dilute those enzymes. Any last one or last people want to come on the platform before we make way out of here? I just went ahead and posted it. If you have anything you want to talk about regarding weight, regarding protein, regarding muscle, regarding exercise, I invite you up. I'll give you a quick minute, but I want to say to all those beautiful people out there worldwide, I appreciate you. I love you very much. I hope you stay well, continue to stay healthy, continue to support your family, and stay safe, because that's what it's all about. But remember, you are what you eat. And your body will heal. And there's a lot of people out there. We all have our obstacles. We all have our issues. We all have our problems. If it's weight, if it's acne, if it's our gastritis, if it's our prostate, if it's our urinary tract system, if it's something, We all have something, and that's why we come together to share our ideas, to share knowledge. Please subscribe if you haven't, because there's only one thing, and I say it every program, there's only one thing I care about, and that's you and your family. Just make sure that you stay healthy, and that's what it's all about. So anyways, blessings to all of you. This will be posted on my channel. You can go back and see it, share it, and hopefully you will gain a lot of education from what we just talked about in the last 25 or so minutes. So blessings to all of you. We'll catch up with you in our next video. Bye-bye now for now.